Russia's parliament on Tuesday voted to ratify President Vladimir Putin's agreements with Lugansk and Donetsk. In Brazil, the death toll resulting from heavy rains and landslides in Petropolis rose to 181. In Ethiopia, the lower house of parliament appointed on Monday the 11th members of the Special Commission to promote inter-ethnic dialogue. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Russia's parliament on Tuesday voted to ratify President Vladimir Putin's agreements with Lugansk and Donetsk. Under the agreements, Russia will be able to send troops, set up military bases, and jointly defend the territories of the Donetsk People's Republic and Lugansk People's Republic. Also known as Duma, the lower house of the parliament voted unanimously to approve the deals. The Federation Council, the country's upper house of parliament, then also ratified the deals, with all senators voting in favor. President Vladimir Putin recognized the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics as independent on Monday, despite repeated Western warnings that this will result in sanctions. Russian President Vladimir Putin met his Azerbaijani counterpart Ilham Aliyev in Moscow on Tuesday. Both leaders discussed the implementation of agreements in Nagorno-Karabakh and the development of bilateral ties. The heads of state also signed a declaration of allied interaction, taking the relations between Russia and Azerbaijan to the allied level.
I want to say right away, we already predicted the speculation that Russia plans to restore its empire within imperial borders. This is absolutely not true. After the collapse of the USSR, Russia recognized all the new geopolitical realities and, as you know, is actively working to strengthen our interaction with all countries and independent states that have emerged in the post-Soviet space.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, the parliaments of Donetsk and Lugansk ratified the treaties of friendship, cooperation and mutual assistance with Russia. The People's Councils of the two self-proclaimed republics voted unanimously in favor of a law ratifying treaties reached with Russia. The documents proposed on Monday include common defense against external aggression, joint protection of the Donbas Republic's borders, the right to use the other country's military infrastructure, among other issues. In addition, it stipulates that Russia will take measures to support the financial and banking systems of Donetsk and Lugansk. Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kyiv is considering breaking off diplomatic relations with Russia in response to its recognition of Lugansk and Donetsk as independent republics.
I have received a request from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to examine the question of breaking off relations between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. I will examine and work on this issue right after this press conference.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said his country has taken steps to halt the process of certifying the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia, as the West started taking punitive measures against Moscow after President Vladimir Putin recognized Lugansk and Donetsk as independent republics. The decision is a significant move for the German government, which had long resisted pulling the plug on the project despite pressure from the United States and some European countries to do so. Washington has for years argued that building another pipeline bringing natural gas from Russia to Germany increases Europe's reliance on Russian energy supplies. On Monday, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting addressing the Ukraine conflict and the decisions taken by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. At the emergency summit, nations' representatives explained that it is necessary to find a peaceful solution without violation of the international law. Countries see as really worrying and delicate the conflict and advocated for a diplomatic and pacific solution. Vasily Nebenzia, the permanent representative of the Russian Federation to the United Nations, said that allowing a new bloodshed in the Donbas is something we do not intend to do. Also, Russia's ambassador told the Security Council it remains open to diplomacy and insisted Ukraine is still bound by the Minsk agreements.
The internationally recognized borders of Ukraine have been and will remain unchangeable. regardless of any statements and actions by the Russian Federation.
Meanwhile, the permanent representative of the Russian Federation to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, said Moscow remains open to diplomacy, but will defend Donetsk and Lugansk from a new Ukrainian military action.
We remain open to diplomacy for a diplomatic solution. However, allowing a new bloodbath in the Donbass is something we do not intend to do.
Meanwhile, the United States ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, considered as nonsense that Russia called peacekeepers the troops that will intervene in the eastern Ukraine.
He has since announced that he will place Russian troops in these regions. He calls them peacekeepers. This is nonsense. We know what they really are.
On the other hand, China called to address the situation's complexity and urged all parties to resolve the matters by peaceful means.
The current situation in Ukraine is a result of many complex factors. China always makes its own position according to the merits of the matter itself. We believe that all countries should solve international disputes by peaceful means, in line with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. In the southeastern Brazilian city of Petropolis, the war and rescue work continues, and in the last few hours, more bodies have been recovered, bringing the death toll from the mudslides and downpour of last week to 181. The heavy rainstorm that devastated part of the city has also left nearly 200 people injured, while the search for dozens of missing people continues. The storm has left a large-scale trail of destruction since last Tuesday, making it the city's worst weather tragedy ever, according to the latest report from the city's police. In addition to the 181 fatalities, the civil police informs a provisional list accounts for 117 people missing. It is precisely the search for survivors under the rubble that is keeping the rescue teams busy. In the last few hours, the civil defense issued a report confirming 775 incidents were a direct consequence of the landslides. El Salvador declared a red alert on Monday after reporting a 238% increase in the number of fires throughout the country. The state of alert was declared by the General Directorate of the Civil Protection of El Salvador, which indicated that between January 1st and February 20th, 2,958 hectares were affected in different parts of the country. In this sense, the Minister of Government and the head of the Civil Protection, Juan Carlos Videgain, called on Salvadorans to avoid agricultural burnings, the burning of sugar cane, since this can get out of control. The emergency declaration points out that the conditions of winds of up to 50 kilometers per hour and the existence of dry vegetation, which becomes fuel to spread the fire quickly, generate conditions that increase the danger of forest and agricultural fires. Bolivia's Ministry of Justice and the United Nations have signed a protocol to observe the judicial process in the Indian country. The Ministry of Justice and Institutional Transparency and the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights signed a protocol on Monday for the observation of all judicial processes in Bolivia. The protocol stipulates a series of regulations for the observation of procedural activities and enables the participation of human rights organizations in the monitoring.
So that we can have, as of today, all the judicial processes that we have at the moment in the country. There are lawsuits in the country that are very important for the development of our democracy, so that we have the possibility in the country to be sure that due process and fundamental human rights are being respected.
For his part, the representative of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Antonio Menéndez de Subillaga, highlighted the signing of this protocol and the will of the Bolivian state to join the international standards.
Again demonstrates the political will of the minister and the ministry for transparency and commitment to respect international standards.
In Brazil, 5 prisoners died and 17 were wounded during a prison riot that took place in the Lemos Brito prison in Salvador, in Bahia state. The number was provided by the State Secretariat of Public Security of the Federal District after the situation was under control. According to government officials, the riot was the result of an escape attempt and a confrontation between inmates. However, prison guards hindered the escape after hearing gunshots in one of the blocks at the Mara Escura complex and prevented the inmates from leaving through the main door. Local police began an investigation about the weapons found inside the prison. This Monday, the full chamber of the Constitutional Court decriminalized the voluntary interruption of pregnancy until 24 gestation weeks in Colombia. In a historic decision, the full chamber of the Constitutional Court decriminalized the voluntary interruption of a pregnancy in up to 24 gestation weeks. The decision was immediate effect and passed with 5-4 votes, with the Deputy Judge Julio Andrés Sosa's attendance stood in at a claim that was introduced by the Causa Justa movement, made up of various organizations of women which ask to fully eliminate the crime from penal code. The decision precises that under any circumstance it will be possible to demand a number of weeks when dealing with abortions in 3 legal grounds.
We are very happy about the decision taken by the court today. There is a decision that decriminalizes abortion in Colombia until the 24th week, and from then on, they will continue to govern the causes in the country. This is a historic victory for women in the country, and today we are celebrating it from the Just Cause movement. We are the first country in Latin America to decriminalize abortion and remove it from the penal code. We welcome this historic event because it is a recognition of women's rights.
In Cuba, Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla received the Secretary General of the Association of Caribbean States, the AAC, Rodolfo Sabonge, in the framework of his official visit to the Caribbean island. During a meeting in Havana, officials reviewed the current status of the association and exchanged views on the challenges of the wider Caribbean, which suffered the consequences of climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic. The Cuban Foreign Minister, Bruno Rodriguez, stressed the importance of the ACS, as a mechanism for consultation in the region and thanked the organization for its historic support in rejecting the economic blockade imposed by the United States. For his part, the Secretary General of the ACS, Adolfo Sabonge, referred to Cuba's permanent commitment to the regional organization.
It will be a promising year for us to have a summit event of heads of state and governments, and after the very difficult conditions generated by the pandemic of COVID-19, its economic impacts, we think it will be a year of recovery and hope.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. In Ethiopia, the lower house of parliament appointed on Monday the 11 members of a special commission to promote inter-ethnic dialogue. The 11 commissioners will be responsible for developing an agenda for dialogue. These individuals have been selected from a pool of more than 600 people chosen by citizens and evaluated by an independent committee established by the lower house. However, when it comes to legislation, these national dialogues must be inclusive and incorporate all political interests in the country. It is unclear whether the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, which has been waging war with the central government since November 2020, will be allowed to join in. On Monday, an explosion near a gold mining site in southwestern Burkina Faso has killed 59 people and injured more than 100 others. The explosion was believed to have been caused by chemicals used to treat gold stock at the site. The provisional toll was provided by regional authorities following the blast in the village of Gomblora. The first blast happened at about 2 p.m., with more explosions following. Gold is the mainstay of Burkina Faso's economy, topping its list of exports. The country is the fastest growing gold producer in Africa, as well as its fifth largest. Small gold mines like Gomblora have grown in recent years, with some 800 across the country. The small-scale mines are also reportedly used by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which have staged attacks in the country since 2016.
Initially, we were told that there were 48 bodies, but in the end, there are 52 bodies already on the site. We were told that there are 2 bodies which were removed by their parents already, so plus the 2 bodies that make 54. There was also a death at the CSPS of Gomblora, so that makes 55 for the moment. Here we have recorded more than 55 people with injuries of different severity. It must be said that already there are 4 people who have died. The teams are working hard to really take stock of the situation. Some of them have started to be taken to the operating room, and those who can have been stabilized first.
Libya's interim Prime Minister Abdulhamid Dbeibeh presented a plan on Monday to resume the country's electoral process, despite the fact that the parliament appointed his successor days before, considering that his mandate has concluded.
Here, I lay out the outline for returning integrity to the people, which is in 4 points. The first point is the formation of a technical committee to prepare the parliamentary election law.
In New Zealand, anti-vaccine protesters pelted police with a inciting substance, sending 3 to hospital with injuries Tuesday as tensions spill over in an angry weeks-long protest. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern decried absolutely disgraceful scenes after the suspected acid attack, and a startling incident that saw one protester speed a car toward police lines before coming to a quick halt just centimeters away. The brief but intense confrontations erupted near New Zealand's parliament early on Tuesday. 3 officers who were taken to hospital were recovering well. They blamed a certain group within the process for the appalling attack. Ardern said she was concerned the protest was becoming increasingly violent. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced at the House of Commons on Monday that the last remaining restrictions on coronavirus in England will be lifted from 24th February.
In England, we will remove all remaining domestic restrictions in law. From this Thursday, it will no longer be law to self-isolate if you test positive, and so we will also end the provision of self-isolation support payments, although statutory sick pay can still be claimed for a further month.
In this regard, Johnson said the country is moving from government restrictions to personal responsibility, and noted that COVID-19 rapid tests will no longer be free for the general population.
Today is not the day we can declare victory over COVID, because this virus is not going away. But it is the day when all the efforts of the last 2 years finally enabled us to protect ourselves whilst restoring our liberties in full.
And while battling the various outbreaks of COVID-19 active in the country, China is also continuing the vaccination process to achieve a solid immunization barrier against the virus. In the rest of Asia, several nations continue to suffer the onslaught of the Omicron variant, and the last few days, countries such as South Korea and Indonesia recorded record number of daily cases. Our correspondent Ramsey Baraza expands on this.
While enforcing strict measures to contain the new Delta and Omicron variants of the new coronavirus, China is also maintaining a steady immunization pace, with an average of 5 to 6 million COVID-19 vaccines being administered in the country every day. The Asian giant, which has already applied more than 3 billion doses of vaccines against COVID-19 in its territory, is advancing at full speed towards the goal of vaccinating its entire population. According to official records, between 5 and 6 million doses vaccines are being administered every day. According to the National Health Commission, more than 1.2 billion people in the country have already received at least 2 jabs and completed the vaccination cycle. The entity also announced that it has already initiated a process of consecutive immunization of COVID-19, a method that consists of administering booster vaccines based on a different technology than those used in the initial inoculations, with the objective of reinforcing collective immunity against the disease. China, which today reported 144 new cases of COVID-19, 71 of them due to local infection, continues at the moment with strict epidemiological measures, especially in the regions of inland Mongolia and in the southeastern part of the country, where the active focuses of the disease are located. On the other hand, after surpassing 100,000 infections in one day, South Korea reported over 95,000 cases on Monday. To try to contain the spread and not to overload the health system, the authorities are implementing different measures, including providing more self-diagnosis kits and asking patients with mild symptoms to take care of themselves at home. But despite the increase of cases, South Korean authorities announced a light softening of restrictions ahead of the March 9th presidential elections amid growing annoyance from business owners. Meanwhile, Indonesia saw a 74% increase in the cases of infection in the past week. The nation of 278 million people has vaccinated 70.1% of its population with at least 1 dose and is considering lifting all quarantine requirements for incoming travelers in an effort to stimulate tourism and businesses. According to the authorities, they need to find a balance between the need to maintain health and the need to maintain the economy. This is how things are today on this side of the world. We will be back with more news from the Asian continent in the next few days.
Thank you, Ramsey, for this report, and we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.